You guys ready to go? Yeah. All right. Oh, the light's on. We're ready to go? Okay. Here's my show. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much for coming. Yeah, we can clap for it. Yeah, I hope you like it. So when this is a show about my brother Tim, who was 2 years older than me. Now, when Tim turned, I think he was about 24 years old, when he just got an interesting hobby, and I don't know if you've ever had a hobby before, but I've got a hobby. My hobby's chess, and it's something I'm very passionate about. I love playing chess. It's one of my favorite things to do. Does anyone else have a hobby? You can talk to me. It's fine.
Rock climbing.
What is yours?
Rock climbing.
Rock climbing. Great hobby. Anyone else have a hobby? Cooking. Tim was a bit of a cook as well. Tim's hobby was meth. He loved meth more than anything, and it's an interesting hobby to get meth, but he loved it so very, very much. The way he was really passionate about meth, and to me, the way I explain it is he was a bit like a meth dad. That's the way he treated meth. It was like his little baby. That's the way he treated it. I want to call this show Meth Dad, but I looked it up, and that's a band. So go check out the Meth Dads, I guess. A bit of cross promotion for them. But he loved meth. Meth to him was like his passion, and he loved it so very, very much. And Tim was one of those very, very lucky people that managed to get a job in something they love so very, very much. Imagine if you got a job being a rock climber. That would be amazing if you got to work in something that you love so very, very much. And Tim got this job working for a biker gang in Adelaide in South Australia, one of the oldest biker gangs in all of Adelaide. And he got this job making meth for them, and he loved it so much he couldn't help but take his work home with him. So he had a little meth lab in his house as well, this makeshift meth lab that he had, but he mainly made meth for this biker gang in Adelaide, and like any good cook, your hobby is cooking. Well, how do you know what you're making is good? You gotta taste it, don't you? You gotta try it. And boy did Tim taste. Boy did he try. And one day while he was making meth for the bikers in their meth lab, a fire started. And this fire started burning down the bikers' meth lab. And like any good parent, when a fire starts affecting your baby, the first thing you think is, save the baby! Save the baby! So Tim started gathering up all of the bikers' meth and ran away as he burned the bikers' meth lab to the ground. Now, I don't know if you've ever had meth before, but it can affect the decision-making part of your brain, the part of your brain that helps you make decisions. And during this time, Tim made a few questionable decisions. Questionable decision number 1. Maybe stealing all the bikers' meth and running away wasn't such a good idea. You can't burn the oldest biker gang in Adelaide's meth lab to the ground, take all their meth, and run away. That's not a very good idea to have at that time. Questionable decision number 2. I'll just smoke some of the meth. That's what I'll do now. I'll just smoke some of the meth. Questionable decision number 3. I'll smoke some more meth. That's what I'll do now. I'll just smoke it a little bit more. But that meth, that cleared his brain a little bit, and that made him think, oh, no, the bikers are going to come and get me. You can't burn down the oldest bike in Adelaide. You can't burn their meth out of the ground, steal their meth, and run away. How am I going to deal with this problem? Questionable decision number 4. Oh, I know. I'll just never see them again. That's how I'll deal with that problem. I just won't ever see the bikers again. So he just went home. Just went home to his house and just went, I just won't see them again. Then can you guess what he did? Smoked some more meth. Yeah, there's no ongoing theme in this show. And he smoked some more meth, and that cleared his brain a little bit more. And he thought, no, I can't burn them, but they're going to come and get me. They're bikers. They're going to come and get me. They know where I live. How am I going to deal with this problem? Oh, I know. I'll buy a gun. So he went out and bought a gun and sat behind the front door of his house waiting for the bikers. Right behind the front door, just sitting there, waiting and waiting and waiting. He took some more meth and waited. Took some more meth and waited. I'm assuming this is how you take meth. You waft it into your sinuses from a steamy bowl of hot water. And he sat and he waited for 3 whole days, no sleep, just more meth, just sitting, waiting for the bikers to come and kick his door in. And sure enough, on the 3rd day, Tim's door was kicked in. And Tim did something he's very, very good at doing. He dropped the gun and ran. That was just a little bit of mime running there, and he ran and he hid in his favourite room of his house. The Meth Lab. And sure enough, the people who kicked in his door on that day were the police.
Dear Tim, how's jail? How many cigarettes does it cost for a picture of a naked lady? You getting really strong? So I've written a show about you, is that okay? You're in jail, so you can't really say no. Love from your little brother, Jon. P.S. Remember when we used to play belly bucking? Yeah.
Belly bucking. Put on an Alvin and the Chipmunks album. Stick a cushion up the front of your shirt like you have a big fat belly. Stand at each end of the room. Dance towards each other. Bump your bellies together 3 times. Laugh like Santa. Repeat.
Great, you took to that very quickly, very quickly. Have you belly bucked before? You have, okay. Wasn't because of the instructions, yeah, okay. That's belly bucking, you can do that at home if you want to. And so Tim got caught by the police and taken to jail. And he was in jail for a year, and his first day, walking into his jail cell, he saw his jail cellmate. And Tim said, "What's your name?" And this guy said, "Terry." And Tim said, "Terry, what do you do?" And Terry said, "I'm a member of the biker gang that's after you." And Tim said, "Oh no, are they going to come and get me? Are they going to get me in here? Are they going to get me when I get out? What's going to happen?" And he said, "I don't know, but they're definitely going to get you." So Tim lived in fear in this jail, his cellmate being a member of this biker gang, and I went to visit Tim in jail, and I don't know if you've ever been to jail before, but when I went to visit Tim, I found out, to me it's like a school camp for psychos. That's what it seems like. I walked into the bit where you meet them, and there's a newsletter written by the inmates of all the things that they do in jail, and I'm looking through this newsletter written by the inmates, and I'm looking at Tim, and I say, why don't you play football? And he said, "I can't, I'll get bashed." "Why don't you play tennis?" I said, "I'll get bashed." I said, "Why don't you learn guitar or something like that?" And he said, I tried, I got bashed. So Tim couldn't partake in any of the extracurricular activities in this jail, and the only game that Tim was allowed to play, that Terry allowed him to play, was table tennis. And Terry and Tim would play table tennis every single day, and that's because they would collect the table tennis balls and take them back to their cells at nighttime and make little makeshift bombs out of the table tennis balls. And they'd drill these little holes with pins into the table tennis balls and then fill them up with this flint from matches. And they'd make these little bombs, and then one night they made the perfect table tennis ball bomb, and the guard walked past their cell door and they kicked the bomb under the door, and the bomb blew up in the guard's face. And the guard ran to Tim and Terry's cell, opened the door and said, "Who did this? Who did this?" And Tim stood up. Said, "It was me. It was all me. Terry had nothing to do with it." So the guard took Tim away and put him in a place they called the room. He got put in this room for 2 whole days. I guess it's like solitary confinement, but they call it the room. And he got put in this room for 2 whole days. And when he came back to his cell, he walked in. Terry was sitting on the bed, and Terry said, "Remember that debt you've got with the bikers? Forget about it. It's over. It's done. It's finished." This is a story about my brother, Tim. Tim is an addict.
Dear Johnny, thanks for writing to me. You watch too many movies. Sickies aren't used to get things. We use coke. Not the good kind. Coca-Cola. I never asked you to do a show about me. Don't do a show about me. It's not a good idea. Fuck. From Tim. P.S. I was the fucking best at belly bucking.
Not anymore, I don't think. I think you're quite challenge him to that title. So that's what I've made this show about, to try and work out how Tim became this kind of person. So I've analysed our childhood and the way we grew up and everything like that. So here's a photo of Tim and I eating some floor ice cream. And this is the sort of thing that my mum would do to stop Tim and I from fighting. We fought a lot growing up, and my mum would just be at her wit's end of us fighting and then just give us these buckets of ice cream, and that would stop us from fighting for about an hour. Now imagine how much at her wit's end your mum needs to be. These are fucking giant buckets of ice cream! And of course that's why I'm looking quite sick in this photo. And of course Tim, being the addict, is just smashing his down, just more. And I should have known at this age that Tim would grow up to be this kind of addictive personality, but I had no idea. He was my hero growing up. My brother, 2 years older than me. I followed him around everywhere. I did whatever he did. He was my hero. I had no idea. And here's another photo of me and my tan dad and Tim. Yeah, dad gets a little bit of sun. And my dad is actually, we grew up in this tiny little farming community in rural South Australia, this tiny little farming area, and my dad is actually a minister at the local church, a very religious man, and my mum is a very religious woman as well, and so a very religious upbringing, so they don't know how Tim turned out this way as well. And my dad, this very, very serious man, this is how serious my dad is. When I was about 6 years old, when I was about this age, one of my favourite things to do was to tell jokes. I used to like to tell knock-knock jokes. They were the only jokes I knew at that age. And Dad called me over when I was 6 years old. He sat me on his knee, he looked at me in my eyes, and he said, "You need to stop telling knock-knock jokes." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because they're offensive to homeless people." That's how serious this man is, a very serious and stern man, and my mum is a serious woman as well, and I've got two much older brothers as well. My oldest brother, Chris, he loves bongs more than breathing. My second oldest brother, Alf, he's quite religious like mum and dad. And then you've got Tim, the third son, the black sheep of the family. And then you've got me, the youngest, the observer. And so growing up, none of us really had any idea that Tim would become this kind of person either. And I remember about this age, the only other thing that Mum would do to stop Tim and I from fighting, besides give us the floor ice cream, we can't do that every day, and she'd sit us in front of the television. And she said, Tim on one side of the couch, me on the other side of the couch. We couldn't sit next to each other because we'd fight. And she'd sit us on each end of the couch and put on a VHS tape of the Wonder Years. Now, does everyone remember the Wonder Years? Yeah, the Wonder Years. And so that's all I wanted from Tim was to have a good brotherly relationship where we get up to hijinks and do things together. We never did that. All we did was eat the floor ice cream and watch the Wonder Years. And I remember this one day when we've been fighting a lot, and Mum put us in front of the Wonder Years, and my dad, the serious man, he's also one of those men, well, when he's around the house, he's one of those men who doesn't like to get his clothing creased. So when he's around the house and around the farm and everything, as soon as he gets home, he's just got these gross old Y-front jocks just hanging from this hook in his bathroom. And as soon as he gets home, off come all his clothes, and on come these gross old Y-front jocks. And that's what he wears just around the house all the time. Sometimes the Y-fronts and gumboots, just fixing things up around the house. He's one of those men. Is anyone else one of those people who just wears your undies around the house? It's fine if you are. There are a lot of us out there. But my dad was one of these people just wearing these gross old Y-fronts every day around the house. And I remember this day that Tim and I were fighting, we were watching the Wonder Years, and Dad walked into the living room just in these gross old Y-fronts and sat in between us on the couch. And just as Dad was talking to us, both Tim and I noticed out of the corners of our eyes that Dad's penis had fallen out of the Y in the Y-fronts, and he hadn't noticed. Dad is just talking to us, and me and Tim, we both noticed at the same time and just go, no, don't look at it, 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 don't look at it. We sit there just frozen to our chairs, just staring straight ahead like we've seen a ghost, like we've seen a horrible ghost with its dick hanging out the front of its wife, just gripping our chairs, just staring straight ahead, and Dad just keeps on talking and then reels back in his seat and falls asleep. Flaccid penis just lying on his stomach. And Tim and I think, great, this is our chance to leave this situation and pretend it never happened. And I run to the door of the living room, and as I get to the door, I turn around and notice that Tim is just having a little look, an innocent little look. He's just never seen a man penis before. And Dad is circumcised, and Tim and I are not. So he's just having this little look, this inquisitive little look at this weird thing coming out of the front of my dad's wire fronts, and he's just having this look, and this, like I said, he's my hero. I do whatever he does. I follow him around everywhere. I don't want him seeing something that I'm not going to see, so I walk back into the living room and decide I'm going to have a little look as well. And just as I have a look, Mum walks in. Mum comes walking into the living room and sees her two younger sons just staring at her husband's sleeping penis on the couch. And I look at my mum and I see her eyes grow wide and I see her brain just go. My mum is very quick on her feet. And she just continues to walk into the living room and she points at Tim and I and just goes, "You two, go and do the dishes." And without even missing a beat in the sentence, she walks up to Dad, grabs his pants, puts it back in his wife fronts. He doesn't even wake up. Tim and I go, "Yep," we leave the room and we never speak of this again. Until this show. So how does this happen? How does this cute little kid with bad teeth become a drug addict, go to jail? How do these things become? And that's what I've tried to analyze in this show. And in fact, like I said, Tim and I, we didn't get along very well growing up. In fact, Tim was my bully growing up. Now, does anyone have an older sibling that just made your life fucking horrible growing up? Yeah, anyone out here? You can talk to me, it's fine. Yes, what did yours do to you?
They would put me in a box and throw me down the stairs.
Did everybody hear that? Put her in a box and throw her down the stairs. You know what? Second one in Vancouver, that is it. A girl said the other night her brothers zipped her up in a fucking suitcase and rolled her down the stairs. Anyone else have an older sibling that picked on them? Yeah, what did yours do to you?
He threw me around by the ankles. He swung me around and then he threw me.
What? That's fucked. Yeah. They don't really. The older siblings, they don't realize the effect that they have. Who is an older sibling that picked on your younger ones?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you do to yours?
Bundled them up in a blanket and tossed them around.
Bundled them up in a blanket and just tossed them around. Is anyone else an older sibling who picked on the younger ones? Yeah. What did you do to yours?
Tied my little sister's brains to the curtain rods.
Tied her little sister. What?
So she has to stand on her tippy toes.
Oh, that is. You know, I did this show the other day, and it was a packed audience, about 200 people, and not bragging, just 200 people there. And this girl said that her sister Lisa used to pick on her, and I said, "What did she do to you?" And she said, "Just torture, just torture." Just fucking torture. These older siblings, they don't realize the effect that they're having on us. And you know, I ask the older ones usually, and they're just like, "I don't know, I just picked on them," or something like that. They always know the date, the time, and exactly when you fuckers tied us up by our braids, you fucking assholes. They never understand the effect that they're having on you. And every now and then you get payback. Every now and then you get payback, and you older siblings, if you haven't had it yet, it's fucking coming for you. You might need to wait 10 or 12 years. And this girl the other night, she said her sister Lisa just used to torture her. So I called her up on stage in front of all the 200 people, and we called up her sister Lisa, and the entire audience just yelled, "Fuck off, Lisa!" And then we hung up. You've got to get payback every now and then. When you get that sweet moment, you've got to get payback. And Tim was one of these horrible bullies who picked on me all the time. He would do things like flick lit matches onto me. And he would sit on my chest with his knees on my arms like that on the ground, and then lean over and go to spit into my face. And just before it hits you in the face, he sucks it back up again. This is fucking traumatic. This is traumatic. And you know what? Tim was terrible at timing, so often he just spit directly into my face. And if my mouth was open because it was screaming for help and the spit went into my open mouth, he'd just raise his fists and go, "Go!" like that. He's a horrible fucking bully. And he did all these sorts of things. He would call me names. These names that they know cut deep into your soul, the ones that really get into your psyche. He called me names like pig tits. And cow tits. And camel fanny. Hurtful names. Camel fanny means a different thing in Australia. He called me dog murderer. I never knew why he called me dog murderer, but he called me these hurtful names that cut deep into your soul. And he did all these sorts of things. He told the kids at school that I shat around the toilet when it was him. It was him who did it. I remember clearly he was running home from the bus stop and he got right outside the front of the toilet and just went, "I'm not going to make it!" and turned his pants into shit right in front of the toilet. He could have done this. And it would have gone in the toilet, but no! Right in front of the toilet! And I saw the whole thing, and he looked at me with shame, like when you watch a dog do a poo. If anyone ever watches that shameful look that dogs give you when they're doing a poo. And Tim did this, and then he went to school earlier the next day and told everyone at school that it was me. He started calling me Little Johnny Shits in front of the toilet. I got called that for a year. He stole my poetry book and showed Alana Cafford the poem I wrote to her. Yeah, it's a real poem. I've still got to show it to you after the show if you want to see it. It's called I Love Dogs and I Love You. It's a real poem. He pissed on a seal. You can't make these things up. We're on a family holiday to this place called Seal Bay off the coast of South Australia. And you go to this beach and there's just all seals just lazing in the sun. And then Mum's just like, where's Tim gone? And there he is just pissing in the face of this seal. Who pisses on a seal? He ruined NBA Jam. My favourite thing to do when I was about 10 years old, when Tim was hitting puberty, was to run home after school and play NBA Jam on Super Nintendo. And I'd be sitting in my room just totally engrossed in the game, just going, oh, boom, shaka like a goal, later magic, just totally engrossed in the game. And I wouldn't even hear Tim come into the room. And then I'd feel a warm thing just poking me in the ear. Yeah, he's put his dick in my ear! Who puts their dick in someone's ear? You wouldn't put your dick in someone's ear? You wouldn't put your vagina in someone's ear? Who would do that? That is fucked!
Here's $20 for some coke, so you can use it to get a picture of a naked lady. The show I'm trying to write about you is going okay. I'm not sure how I can make your meth addiction and you being in jail funny. I've mentioned about how you used to put your dick in my ear. It seems to agree that that's fucked. Your little brother, John. P.S. Remember when you were obsessed with Jason Donovan? Remember playing that board game? Thinking about putting that in the show.
So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through Tim's addictions from childhood up until now to try and work out how he became this kind of person. So Tim's first addiction was Jason Donovan. Now, you guys might not know who Jason Donovan is. He's a late 80s, early 90s Australian pop star, and he was on the soap opera Neighbours, and he was an actor in that. And Tim loved Jason Donovan. He was the biggest Jason Donovan fan there is. He had Jason Donovan posters in his on his walls in his bedroom, and he listened to the Jason Donovan albums continuously all the time. He loved Jason Donovan. He was the biggest Jason Donovan fan, and he loved him more than anyone else. And for those of you who don't know who Jason Donovan is, I describe him as like a poor man's Rick Astley. That's how I would describe who Jason Donovan is, but if you don't know who he is, I'll show you one of Jason's music clips. Tim loved Jason Donovan, loved him so very, very much. And like I said, all I wanted from Tim was to have a brother. We played games and do things, but we never had that. The only things we did together was eat the floor ice cream and watch the Wonder Years. And the only game that Tim would play with me was a game he got for his 10th birthday, and my mum got it for his birthday, and it was the Jason Donovan board game. It was called Straight from the Heart. All you do is you answer questions about Jason Donovan, and if you get the question right, you get a little puzzle piece that makes a love heart of Jason's face. That's how the game works. And I hated playing this game, but I played it with Tim because that's all I wanted was a good brotherly relationship with him. And I was at my parents' house after all of these years, and after all of these years, I found it. I found the fucking game. And I hated playing this game, but I played it with Tim, and I'll just show you some of the questions that are in the Jason Donovan board game. Now, I remind you now that these are not multiple choice questions. You just have to know a lot about Jason Donovan. What is Jason's favourite house? That's the question. What is Jason's favourite house? His own house in Melbourne. That's the answer. That's the fucking answer. biography. There's no book that comes with the game. You just need to know that his favourite house is his own house in Melbourne. What is Jason's favourite painting? His own, which he did for art class at school. That's the answer. His own, which he did for art class at school. And just so you know, I'm not making these up. I might get you to read this one down. Just the second one down.
What is Jason's favorite postcard?
Yep, that's the question you got right. That's what? What is Jason's favourite postcards? What the fuck does that mean? What does that mean? Who has favourite postcards? His own would make sense, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Not in this game. Thunderbirds, that's the answer. Thunderbirds. That's not even a place, Jason. That's not a place that you go to get a postcard from. That's a TV show. Hated this fucking game. But I played it with Tim because that's all I wanted was a good brotherly relationship with him. And this is the only photo I could find of Tim and I actually sitting next to each other and enjoying each other's company. Us sitting on the creepy bicentennial wombat's lap. So all we did was play the Jason Donovan board game, eat the floor ice cream, and watch The Wonder Years. Now, for those of you who remember The Wonder Years, who's the main character? Who's the protagonist in The Wonder Years? Kevin, the main son there is in the middle there. It's all his internal monologue. That's what the show is. He's definitely the main character. He's the one that I related to and everything like that. Guess who Tim thought was the main character in The Wonder Years? Wayne, the older bully brother Wayne, who picks on Kevin relentlessly in this show. And I never understood the effect that Wayne had on Tim until I started re-watching The Wonder Years. And when Tim turned 16 years old, he got his driver's license. And my mum put Tim in charge of dropping off at school and picking him up from sports trainings and things like that. And I never realised the effect that Wayne may have had on Tim. And for those of you who don't know The Wonder Years, I'll show you a clip from the show.
Salvage what I could of my dignity.
Wayne! Wayne, don't do this.
Do what? I'm just having a little trouble here with the brakes, that's all. I swear I won't do it this time. Okay, I swear I won't do it. Just get in.
Every single fucking time. Just think about that. Every single fucking time. We live 20 minutes from school. One day it took 2.5 hours to get home because we eternally chasing that door handle of the car. This fucked with my brain. I got too scared. I got scared of door handles of cars. People come and pick me up. I just go, no, I'll just walk the 10Ks home. That's fine. Every single time. I wouldn't get into cars all the time. Every single time. This fuck with me. Every time. I don't want to call this show Fire in the Meth Lab. I wanted to call it How to Love an Arsehole because he was such a fucking arsehole. Every single time. And I had no idea. I looked up to him. I followed him everywhere. He was my hero. There was only one time around this time of our childhood where I thought maybe something might be a bit wrong with Tim. And that was when Mum and Dad sent Tim and I to the doctor. We weren't actually seeing the doctor, we were actually seeing a therapist, but the therapist place was in the same place as the doctor's surgery in this tiny little farming community, and of course we had to go and see a therapist. My mum was at her wit's end. There's not enough floor ice cream and Wonder Years that's going to fix this. Tim's putting his dick in people's ears and I'm too scared to get into people's cars. Of course we need therapy. And Mum was just at her wit's end and she goes, like, you kids need therapy. And we're sitting in this waiting room of this doctor's surgery where other people are seeing other doctors and therapists, and Tim hates the doctor. He hasn't been to the doctor in about 20 years. And that's because he's got a little conspiracy theory about doctors and the entire medical profession, therapists included. And that little conspiracy theory that he's got is, they just want to see my dick. That's his little conspiracy theory about doctors and the entire medical profession. So we're sitting in this packed waiting room with all these other people, and Tim is losing his mind. He's sitting next to me just going, I can't believe I have to see a fucking doctor. They just want to see a dick. That's all these doctors want to do. They just want to see a dick. Therapists, they're just doctors as well. I bet he's just going to try and see my dick. And then he starts pointing at people in the waiting room, just going, they're going to see your dick. They're going to see your dick. They're definitely going to see your dick. That's all these doctors want to do. They just want to see a dick. And then he goes, and spits on the carpet of the waiting room in front of all of these people, and then stamps the spit into the carpet with his foot. And it's at that moment, sitting next to Tim right there and then, that I go, oh, Oh, you're fucked. You are fucked. It's at that moment 2 years earlier, I would have spat on the ground and done exactly what he did, but it was at that moment where I thought maybe something might be a bit wrong with Tim. But you know what? Who am I to judge him for this stuff? I mean, I got brought up with these religious morals as well, so who am I to judge Tim for all of these sorts of things? And I mean, when Tim put his dick in my ear, he was hitting puberty, and we all do weird, gross things when we hit puberty. We all do these weird, gross things, but Tim just didn't know the trick with puberty. You don't go around putting your dick in people's ears. He didn't know the trick with puberty. He took it to this public level. The trick with puberty is you keep it a fucking secret. That's how you deal with puberty. And we all do weird, gross things. I did weird, gross things. I used to have sex with my pillow every night. And then just finish it off and turn it over and sleep on it. And I know that's disgusting. I know that's disgusting. But I kept it a secret. That's how you deal with puberty. My mum just thought I sweated a lot in my sleep. And I did all sorts of weird things. I used to make vaginas out of Lego. And fuck them. I don't recommend anyone do this. Don't buy a Lego set on your way home. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't a good thing to do. But we all do these weird, gross things when we hit puberty. It's a weird time. And it's not just boys, it's girls as well. I was talking to my friend about this, and she said that when she was about this age, her and her cousin would sit on their couch, take their pants off, and make their vaginas talk to each other. And I laughed and I said, did you give them funny voices or anything like that? And she said, no, it's just banal. Would you like a cup of tea? Yes, please. So we all do these weird, gross things. And you know what? Tim was an arsehole. I can be an arsehole. We can all be arseholes. And anyone who thinks they can't be an arsehole is probably a fucking arsehole. That's how it works. So you know what? I'll count to 3 and let's all admit to this. We can all be arseholes. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I can be an arsehole. Exactly, we can all be arseholes. In fact, my own mum, called me selfish the other day. My own mum called me selfish, and I didn't know how to deal with this, with my mum calling me selfish and everything, but I dealt with it the way I deal with a lot of my problems these days. I wrote a poem about it. Because I've gotten into poetry recently. I went to a poetry night. Has anyone been to a poetry night before, poetry reading? Yeah. Did any of the poems rhyme at the poetry night that you went to? No! None of the poems rhyme at poetry nights. I went to a poetry night in Melbourne where I'm from. 2 hours of non-rhyming poems. And I thought, that's easy, so I've gotten into poetry. I just read these poems out of these leather-bound books and they say thank you at the end and everyone clicks their fingers. It's fucking weird. Anyway. So here's a poem after my mum called me selfish. It's called Why It's Not Selfish to Not Want Children. I told my mum that I don't know if I want to have children. She said, how can you not want kids? You don't want to share your life with anyone else? How can you be so selfish? I said, why? Why would I bring a child into an already overpopulated world? Why would I create a person? Most people are pricks. I'm a prick. Tim's a prick. Odds are that my child will be a prick. Not that I have a child with Tim. I mean, genes is what I mean. And I don't want them. Mum said, but your child may save the world. I said, I'm too lazy. Kids are a lot of work. First of all, there's birth. I hear giving birth is like pissing a watermelon. I hope I'll love my partner enough not to put them through that kind of pain. Any woman who has children probably isn't loved very much by their partner. Mum said, that's stupid. I said, then there are complications of being pregnant. What if my wife or partner is pregnant and something goes wrong and my wife can't hold the baby in her womb because, I don't know, she doesn't have enough love to keep the baby alive in her womb and the doctors say there's not enough love to keep the baby alive in your womb? Mum said, but John. I said, so the only thing the doctors can do is transplant the fetus into my ass. As my ass would be the only place where the baby can be sustained. So then I have to give a baby in my ass for 9 whole months. I won't be able to sit down very well. I won't be able to poo. Mum said, I said, and instead of the baby getting nutrients from the umbilical cord, they'll have to get nutrients from my poo. And that's another thing to deal with. Once the child is born, I have to live with the knowledge that it ate my poo. Not anyone's poo, Mum. My poo. No one wants to be disgusted by their own child. And the child will grow up all disturbed because Mummy didn't love it enough and Daddy is disgusted by it because it ate my poo. Mum said, that's enough. I said, and the other kids at school will probably tease that no kid is born from his father's anus is not going to be teased. Remember how the kids at school teased me about not having an H in my name? My name is John without an H. It said slightly quicker than John. None of this John stuff. Remember how the kids at school said my parents couldn't afford an H in John? Well, that'll be nothing compared to the kid being an arse child. So there's my kid going to be an arse child, but they'll probably be teased about their name as well, and I'd be determined not to have that happen. So I'd call it a name that encompasses all the letters of the alphabet. Axodefic Kilmoquerstaff Wuxias. Bennett. So at least the kid won't get teased about its name and all the other kids at school will think I'm a millionaire. But then when the baby is born, it'll be like I'm doing a massive shit. I mean, I've done some big poos, but not baby big. Still, my child, your grandchild, Mum, will be an arse child. Is that what you want, Mum? An arse child for a grandchild. And I'm the one being selfish. Mum said you shouldn't have children. Who am I to judge Tim for all of this stuff? What is Jason's favorite restaurant? Any good Italian restaurant? That's the answer. Any good Italian restaurant. They're grammatically terrible, and this one is quite ironic if you know how Jason turned out. What is Jason's favorite heroine? Dame Edna Everage, that's the answer. Dame Edna Everage. If you don't know who she is, this is Dame Edna Everage here. She's Australia's famous drag queen. And again, just so you know, I'm not making these up. This one out again, second one, classic laugh.
What is Jason's favorite best friend at tea?
Yeah, that's the question you got it right. That's what? What is Jason's favorite best friend at tea? What the fuck does that mean? What does that even mean? That's what? That's what, not who. Not who. What? What is Jason's favorite best friend at tea? Not his best friend, his favorite best friend. James Maguire, that's the answer. James Maguire. Does anyone know who James Maguire is? No, he's not a famous person. He's not a Google image search who James Maguire is. These are the only two people who James Maguire could be.
Dear Johnny, thanks for the cash. I could really use some more if you've got it. I told you not to do a show about me. It's not funny. We're not supposed to talk about jail stuff. Don't do it. I'll fucking smash you. So, from Tim. P.S. You love having dicks in your ear. Dick ear. P.S. I didn't love Jason Donovan. I remember the game though. Who the fuck is James Bond?
Tim's second addiction. Jesus. So the therapy wasn't working out very well. My parents, these religious people, because Tim claimed that the therapist saw his dick or whatever, and my parents, these religious people, started sending Tim and I to these religious camps. And you go to these camps are kids between the ages of 13 and 17 years old, and you go to these church camps in the school holidays, and you go to church in the morning, you go in the afternoon, and you go at night time, and the minister at the front of every church service says, if anyone's feeling uncomfortable in their own skin or needs some direction in their life, come up the front of the church and receive prayer. To a bunch of 13 to 17-year-old kids. And all these kids, they walk up the front of the church and all these elders gather around and they put their hands on these kids and they pray for them, and then these kids fall over and they cry and they laugh and they shake and they get slain in the spirit and they speak in tongues just going blah, 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 and fall, like that sort of thing. And for those of you who don't know what these church camps were like, I'll show you a clip from a church camp.
Will direct you.
That's what they were like. And so Tim and I were at these church camps, and we would just sit up the back of the church, and all these kids go forward, and me and Tim are just like, no, let's not do that. That's what all the weirdos do. Let's just ride this church camp out together. And then on the third day of one of the church camps, the minister up the front says, if anyone's feeling uncomfortable in their own skin, needs some direction in their life, come up the front of the church and receive prayer. And Tim, sitting next to me, stands up and starts walking towards the front of the church. And I see him do this, and I go, no, you see, we weren't going to do this. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? But this is still the age where I follow him around. I do whatever he does, so I stand up and follow Tim up the front of the church as well. And immediately Tim is taken over by these elders of the church, and then this little old lady called Mrs. Gates, who's about 1,000 years old, with these tight grey ringlets down the side of her head, she calls me aside, she puts her hands on my head and just says, what do you feel you need prayer for, John? And I'm a 13-year-old kid. I say, I don't know. And she says, that's okay. We'll find something. She starts praying for me, just holding my head, just saying, please, God, help John, help him find you, and everything like that. And then Tim, who's getting prayed for next to me, releases this demonic, cackle. This loud laugh, and then he starts thrashing about, trying to punch the people who are praying for him, and swearing at them, and spitting at them, which is kind of normal behavior for him in some ways. And he's thrashing about, and then he falls to the ground, and he's thrashing all over the place, and then all these other elders, they grab these Bibles and just start hitting him with these Bibles, and holding him on the ground as he's thrashing about all over the place. And I'm really concerned about what's happening with him, but secretly in the back of my brain, I'm thinking, you fucking deserve that. And he's thrashing about all over the ground, and then this woman who's holding my head, I say, what's happening with Tim? And she says, don't worry, he's being exorcised of his demons. And Tim is thrashing about on the ground, getting pummeled with these Bibles, and then this woman leans in close to my ear and says, do you have a problem with masturbation? And I said, what? And she says, do you have a problem with masturbation? And I said, no, I'm a bit concerned with what's happening with Tim. And she said, no, he's being exercised, it's fine, he's being exercised, don't worry, we'll find something. And she keeps praying for me, and Tim is still thrashing about on the ground, and then she grabs my head even tighter and yells at the top of her lungs, do you have a problem with masturbation? And I say, no, I don't. She says, that's okay, we'll find something. And Tim is still thrashing about on the ground, getting pummeled with these Bibles, and then she starts swirling my head around like this and yelling at the top of her lungs, do you have a problem with masturbation? Do you have a problem with masturbation? Do you have a problem with masturbation? And I drop to my knees as tears fall from my eyes, and I respond with, yes! Of course I got a fucking problem with masturbation. I'm a 13-year-old kid with a problem with masturbation. There's not hours in the day to do it. I am masturbating like crazy. I have sex with my pillow every night. I make vaginas out of Lego. Of course I got a fucking problem with masturbation. And I roll around on the ground just going, I got a problem with masturbation. And this woman's just, please God, help John with his problems with masturbation. Help him find you. And by this time, Tim has calmed. And he stands up, walks over to me, helps me up off the ground, puts his arm around me and says, don't worry, little brother. And we walk out of the church together. From that day on, Tim is a completely different person. He's kind, he's nice to be around. He reads the Bible for an hour every night. We play other games besides the Jason Donovan ball game. He's finally become that brother that I've always wanted. We do other things together. He's a completely different person. For a week. Before he turns right back into an asshole. And I don't masturbate. For 4 days.
Dear Tim, you know I hate being called Johnny. How's jail? Do you ever wonder how you managed to get into this situation? I think I'm going to try and explore how this happened to you for the show. I guess that's funny. Maybe I'll read these letters out. Or I could just record them so I can drink some water during the show. Love for my little brother, John. Remember when we went to church camps and you got exercised? What happened with that?
Tim's third addiction, marijuana. Now, Tim is a morning bonger. He has a bong every morning. That's how he sets himself up for the day ahead. Some of us have coffee or something like that. Tim has a bong. And all I know about Tim and marijuana is that marijuana plus Tim equals less of a shit. He's a much easier person to deal with when he's stoned.
If you do this show about me, you're fucked. I'm being for real. People in here don't like to be talked about. There's a guy in here who broke into a place and tried to steal the safe, but accidentally stole the microwave. Don't do things like this in the show. Don't fucking do the show. Can I have some more money, please? From Tim. P.S. I faked the exorcism. P.P.S. Do a show about me and you're fucked.
Tim's fourth addiction. Alcohol. Now all I know about Tim and alcohol is that alcohol plus Tim equals much, much more of a shit. He's a terrible, terrible drunk, and a perfect example of this is my Nana's funeral. Now my Nana died when I was about 16 years old, and I just got my driver's license, and my mum put me in charge of driving this 3-hour drive through the middle of nowhere in South Australia to this little tiny town where my Nana grew up. And I had to drive, she put me in charge of driving my oldest brother Chris, who loves bongs more than breathing, Tim, and my incredibly religious auntie from Sydney, this 3-hour drive through the middle of nowhere in South Australia. And the entire drive there, Tim and Chris are in the back, and my auntie is one of those aunties who just sits silently judging the rest of the family, hardly ever says anything. I've hardly heard her say anything in my life. She just sits there all the time at family gatherings, just silently judging everyone else. And we're driving this 3-hour drive, and Tim and Chris are in the back, and my auntie is in the front. And the worst thing that happens on the way to the funeral is that Tim and Chris want to Dutch up the car and get my religious auntie stoned. That is the worst thing that happens on the way to the funeral. And we have the funeral, and it's sad, and it's nice, and everything. And then we have the wake. And we go to the wake of this funeral, and I realize that my entire family seems to be divided between white sheep and black sheep. And the white sheep of the family, they're sad and they're talking about Nana and everything, and they read the Bible and they're very religious and everything like that, while the black sheep of the family decide to get absolutely fucking wasted. This is the universal sign for getting wasted? No. It's not sucking a bunch of cocks. It's a bottle in each hand. That's how we do it in Australia. And of course, Tim and Chris are over that side of the family just getting absolutely hammered. And then it's my job to drive this 3-hour drive home. We're about halfway along on this drive through the middle of nowhere, and Tim keeps falling asleep onto Chris in the backseat of the car, and Chris will shove him across the other side of the car and say, "I don't want you to spew on me." And Tim will say, "I'm not going to spew on you, I'm not going to spew on you, I'm just tired." And then Tim will fall asleep onto Chris in the backseat again, and Chris will shove him across the other side of the car and say, I don't want you to spew on me. Meanwhile, my auntie, the whole drive there, has said nothing. The whole way back is just sitting in the front seat, just gripping her seat, just staring straight ahead like you've seen a ghost with its dick hanging out the front of its white fronts, just sitting there, just staring straight ahead. And then Tim falls asleep onto Chris in the backseat of the car again, and Chris shoves him harder this time. He hits his head on the window, and then it is on. They are beating the shit out of each other in the backseat of the car until 16-year-old me has to slam on the brakes and just go, right! Oh, turn this car around. I just be driving back to my Nana's funeral. I don't know why I would say that, but that's all I know when kids are fighting in the back and they're fighting. My auntie is still just sitting there staring straight ahead. And then Tim turns to Chris and vomit punches him in the face. And Chris drips with Tim's vomit. I've stopped the car. Tim is out of the back seat, around the back, jumps over this fence and just disappears into this wooded area on the side of the road. Chris is out of the car, over the fence, and chasing Tim through this wooded area on the side of the road. And then I see Chris tackle Tim to the ground, and they're fighting. Then slowly, Chris starts ripping off articles of Tim's clothing until it's just Chris holding all of Tim's clothes, naked Tim just standing next to him. Chris turns towards the car and starts running back towards the car, naked Tim chasing him from tree to tree to tree, hiding his shame as he's getting closer and closer, and Chris is getting closer, holding all of Tim's clothes, naked Tim chasing him from tree to tree to tree. And then finally, my auntie turns, looks out the window, sees Chris getting closer, naked Tim chasing him from tree to tree to tree. She leans in the back, she shuts that door, turns to me and says, just go! I start to drive off down the road, and I see Chris appear in the rearview mirror carrying all of Tim's clothes, and he catches up to the back of the car and jumps into the back, and then I see naked Tim arrive in the rearview mirror chasing the car, and then finally I stop the car and I let him back in. But first Tim's fifth addiction. Psychedelics. So as Tim gets older and older, he starts getting into heavier drugs, and he starts getting heavily involved in the rave scene. And this is very hard for my family because he disappears on Thursday nights and doesn't get home until a Sunday morning, and no one knows where he's gone. He's just gone off to these raves out in the middle of nowhere. He gets into a lot of ecstasy and LSD and magic mushrooms and a lot of harder drugs. And no one knows where he's going. He just gets home on these Sunday mornings. And I remember this one Sunday morning hearing him come home. And I got out of bed to go to the toilet. And Tim was just sitting in the kitchen, just stirring these 2 cups of tea. This little grin on his face. He walked these 2 cups of tea into my parents' bedroom before they were to go to church. I went to the toilet, I walked back out through the kitchen, and Tim walked past me in the kitchen, and just as we passed, he leant in close to my ear and just went, "I just put acid in Mum and Dad's tea." My mum and dad are the straightest people in the world. They've never smoked a cigarette, they've never been drunk, they've never listened to rock and roll music. They're the straightest people in the world, and Tim has just put an entire tab of acid into each of their teas before they go to church, where my dad is the fucking minister! And they go off to church and they come back about 2 hours later, and Dad storms into the kitchen. He marches around the kitchen table and he just says, "That is the best service I've ever done in my entire life. I can see the Holy Spirit filling the congregation. I can see the Holy Spirit flying around the air." And he yells to my mum, whose name is Mary. He goes, "Mary, pack your bags. We're going to Sydney." And Mum packs her bags, they pack up the car and drive a 16-hour drive to Sydney. Mum calls me up 17 hours later and just says, "We're coming home." They never know. They never know that they had acid on that day. And they've been Pentecostal religious and they don't run the church camps for 13 to 17-year-old kids. So that was controversy. So I was talking to my mum about the show, obviously omitting that bit because how the fuck do you bring that up? But I was talking to my mum about the show and I said, "I need some redemption for Tim, Mum. Like, it's looking pretty bad. I need some sort of redeeming thing." And I was talking to my mum and the fact is Tim was a horrible bully to me growing up. He did make my life very, very hard. And he wasn't just my bully either. He was a school bully, putting his dick in everyone's ears and everything like this. This made it very hard for me to make friends growing up. And so actually my main friends growing up when I was a little kid were actually dogs. And this is me with my grandmother's dog Heidi, who I loved more than anything. I'd visit her on weekends and on holidays, and I had my own dog on the farm as well. He was a Jack Russell. I named him Jack because I was an unimaginative kid, it seems. And guess what his last name is? Russell, of course, yeah. What an imaginative little kid I was. But I loved Jack. He was my best friend. I'd run around on the farm with him. I'd eat his food and everything like that. I kind of thought I was a bit of a dog for some reason. This is Tim and I with Jack. I spent so many great days in that kennel with Jack, just eating his food and talking to him and everything like that and running around. And I kind of thought I was a bit of a dog, but that's what happens when your brother's putting his dick in everyone's ears because you've got no friends and all your friends are dogs. And I loved Jack. He was my best friend. And I remember when I started going to school. And I'd get off the school bus and I'd start walking down our long, winding driveway to our house. And Jack would spot me from the house. And he'd run all the way down our long, winding driveway, then around my legs, and all the way back to the house, and all the way down the driveway, and around my legs, and all the way back to the house, and then all the way down the driveway, and around my legs, and he'd lie on his back and piss all over himself. Now that's friendship! I love Jack, he was my best friend, but in the same month when I was 7 years old, both Heidi and Jack died. And I was devastated by this. I was so sad. I lost my 2 best friends in the same month, and I was so upset. And my mum was consoling me, and she said, we're not going to get another dog right now, just for a little while, just because you kind of think you are one, and you need to stop doing that. You need to stop eating the food and running around like a dog, because I think that's probably why you don't have many friends. And I said, no, it's because Tim's put his dick in people's ears. And she's like, no, I think pretending, just not do that, and just no dog time for John, just for a little while. So I lost my 2 best friends and I had no one to hang out with or anything like that. So every day after school, instead, I would go around to my neighbour's house. And I'd play with their dog, which is this dog that was always on this long chain, chained up at the front of their house. I hardly ever saw the neighbours. I just would play with this dog every day after school. It was a red and blue heel across. And every day after school, I played with this dog. I ended up naming it Jack too, because I'm unimaginative. And this dog became my new best friend. I remember one day after playing with Jack too, I was walking home. And I was walking home and I heard this sound from behind me. And I turned around and it was Jack too. He'd gotten off his chain somehow and was following me home. And I couldn't believe this. It was some sort of miracle. I couldn't believe that he was there. And I called him over and he jumped up on my chest and I put my arms around him and he started licking my face. And then the licks turned into bites. He started tearing apart my face as I fell backwards onto the ground. The next thing I remember is just this dog being lifted off of me and getting loaded into the back of this ambulance and getting taken to hospital. I got 19 stitches in my lip there. You can still see the scar. I got 4 in my head there and 9 behind my ear there. And I woke as the doctor was stitching me up, and he said, "What happened?" I said, "I don't know, it was my best friend. I just called him over, I patted him, and he jumped up and he bit me." And that's the story I told people for 23 years. That is not the truth of what happened on that day. On that day, I decided that Jack too was going to be mine. I took him off the chain. I was leading him home to my family's house. He was going to be my best friend again, me and him against the world. My new best friend, no more chains for him, just me and him against the world. And we were walking home, and we walked past another neighbour's house who had all these dogs behind this big galvanised iron fence, and they started barking as we walked past. And Jack too, he started barking back at them, and I looked down at him and went, "You're outnumbered. You're outnumbered. It's you and me now, you and me against the world, best friends." And I got down on all fours and started barking at the dogs behind the fence. I turned to Jack too, and I barked at him as if to say, fuck those guys, it's you and me now, you and me, best friends. And obviously, he misinterpreted that. Obviously, I said something quite horrible in dog language, to which he took offense and attacked me. And I kept it a secret for so long because after being stitched up and going home, I found out that Jack too was put down. And I lost 3 of my best friends in the same month. And I kept it a secret for so long because it was my fault. It was my fault. I pretended I was a dog. My mum told me not to do that, and I did it, and I barked at him, and that's why he bit me, and that's why he's dead now. And I was so ashamed, and I was paranoid. Even when the doctor was stitching me up and everything, and he said, "How did this happen?" I said, "I don't know, he just jumped up and he bit me." I was sure all the doctors who was stitching me up was going to go, "These don't look like unprovoked bite marks. You barked at him, didn't you?" Sure, something like that was going to happen, so I kept it a secret for 23 years. When I was talking to my mum about the show, I decided to tell her the truth. Mum said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I know, you barked at him, and that's why I bit you." And I said, "When did you find out?" She said, "Straight after it happened, when you were being stitched up." I said, "How did you find out?" Mum said that Tim told her. I said, "How did Tim find out?" Mum told me that Tim had been following me every day after school to my neighbour's house to check up on me, make sure I was okay. Knew I'd lost my 2 best friends in the same month, and he thought I was going away every day after school to cry. He was just checking up on me, showing some compassion, which I never really feel like he did growing up. And he never told me. It was Tim who pulled the dog off of me on that day and saved me. And he never told me. He still doesn't know that I know it. The fact that he called me dog murderer now makes more sense, though. So who am I to judge him for all this stuff? I mean, he saved me on that day. I mean, I'm from Australia. Dingoes eat babies out there. Who knows what could have happened on that day? So he's saying this, so who am I to judge him for all of these things? I mean, Jason Donovan, I dare you not to listen to a couple of Jason Donovan songs and be hooked. He's a rich man's Rick Astley. All of these things. Jesus, if Jesus can turn Tim into the brother that I've always wanted, then consider me converted. That week was the best time in our relationship that we've ever had. If Jesus can do that to Tim, consider me converted as well. All of these things. Marijuana, not really for me. The last time I got stoned, I had a 4-hour shower. But that's just me. Seems to work for Tim. All of this stuff, I mean, alcohol. I've done some stupid drunken things. I get drunk quite a lot. I've never vomit punched anyone in the face. When I was 18 years old, I'm one of those people who has a terrible drunken tattoo. When I was 18 years old, I got really drunk. I went to the tattoo place, and I got my own fucking signature tattooed on my arm. Who gets their own signature on their arm? I can show it to you after the show if you want to see it. I can't pull this up, but it is right there, and it is a terrible... Who's so narcissistic that they get their own fucking signature tattooed on their arm? And it is a terrible tattoo, and everyone teases me. The only thing I can think of to make it any better is if I get a giant check for $1 million tattooed around it, but that doesn't make any sense because who uses checks anymore? And now I'm just paying myself $1 million. Doesn't make any sense, and it is a terrible tattoo. When I play football and things like that with short sleeves, and everyone, my teammates tease me, like, do it for your own signature on your arm, John, in front of opposition players, and have to lie and go, it's my daughter's name, and she's dead, just to stop me from teasing me. That's actually right. I didn't pay for it. I got it for free. It was paid for by a large homosexual man. But that's in a different show and a different story. Even Tim's theory about the doctor. I've been to the doctor a bunch of times. You know what they've wanted to do a few of those times? See my dick. So maybe Tim's onto something with that. All of these things. I mean, psychedelics. I quite like psychedelics. And I've had psychedelics quite a lot of times in my life. I was a bit older than Tim when I first tried them. When I was 24 years old, I first tried magic mushrooms. And I shouldn't like psychedelics for this reason, but when I was 24 years old, I was at this farewell party for my two friends, and I was there at this party with my girlfriend, and my girlfriend and I were at that stage in our relationship where we hated each other's fucking guts. I hated her, she hated me. We were just riding out this shit relationship because neither of us had the balls to break up with the other one. She legitimately didn't have the balls, but you know, has anyone been in that relationship before where it's just like, you break up with me, no, you break up with me. Well, fine, let's just sit here for a year. And we're at this party, and my two friends who are leaving, I'm really going to miss these guys. I'm really going to miss them, and all I want to do is stay at this party till the very end, and my girlfriend keeps going, you got 10 minutes. You got 10 minutes every time, and I managed to get her to stay for longer and longer, but for the whole party, she's just complaining, 10 more minutes, 10 more minutes, and I'm really going to miss my two friends, and I managed to get her to stay until the very end, where it's just us sitting in the living room, just the two of them, and me and her just sitting in the living room, and then they hand around a bag of dried mushroom. I reach into the bag, I pull out one of the mushrooms, and I put it in my mouth. My girlfriend turns to me and says, you're a fucking idiot. I'm not helping you. And I say, what? I like dried apricot, I like dried apple, I assume I would like dried mushroom. She says, you're a fucking idiot, I'm not helping you. And I said, I don't need your help, I don't need you to help me. She's taken a lot of drugs in her teenage years, and she's more mature than that, so she's quite condescending and patronizing towards me, just, I'm not helping you. And I say, I don't need your help, I don't need you to help me. And I grab the bag of mushrooms, I reach in the bag, I pull a fist of the mushrooms out, I stuff them all in my mouth and just go, who's gonna help me now? She goes, okay, I'll help you. But she said, before I help you, just feel my eye teeth. And I said, what? She says, feel my eye teeth. For a second, I think she's got teeth in her eyes. But she's like, no, my eye teeth, these ones here, they're sharp, aren't they? And I said, yeah, they're sharp. She says, yeah, they're sharp. And then we sit in this living room with my two friends, and we watch a DVD of The Never-Ending Story. Now, when you're on magic mushrooms, that is legitimately a never-ending fucking story. Heart attack sinks into that pit of sadness forever, and we're watching this movie, and I hear this sound from next to me, this clacking of teeth. It's getting closer to my ear. And I'm sitting there watching this movie going, I know what you're doing. And she says, I'm not doing anything. And the clacking is getting louder and closer, and I say, I know what you're doing. She says, I'm not doing anything until the clacking is right outside my ear, until finally I turn to her and go, look, you need to stop that. And she turns to me, she's all grey and sullen. She opens her mouth, her eye teeth start growing in the bottom of her lip, and she responds with, and I freak the fuck out! And I go, oh God, you've turned into a vampire, I can't handle this, I need some help now, please, I'm sorry, I need some help now, please. And I turn to my two friends and I go, is she a vampire to you? She looks like a vampire to me. And they turn to me, they're all grey and sullen, their eye teeth are growing at the bottom of the lip, and they respond with, and I go, you all fucking vampires, you all turned into vampires, I can't handle this, I need some help now, please, it's like Twilight before Twilight's a thing, I need some help now, please help me. And my girlfriend says, settle down, I'll go and get you a book. And she says, this book on my lap, and I start turning the pages of the book, and it's a homoerotic picture book. My two friends who were leaving are a gay couple, and I'm turning the page of this book, and every page is the same. It's just like a fireman just standing there with his dick in his hands, and his dick starts growing up and around his neck like a noose and choking him as he grows devil horns. Every page is the same. Policeman dick up around the neck, choking, devil horns until I stand up, I slam the book shut and go, the gay guy's dicks are killing me as they turn into demons! And everyone in the room just turns to me and responds with, and I go, oh, fuck, I gotta get out of here, I gotta leave this situation, I gotta go to the toilet. And it's only when I run to the toilet and start to pee that I begin to laugh. Because I look down and I'm peeing pure, liquefied gold, like this thick stream of molten gold just coming out of the end, filling the toilet up like James Bond style gold, just filling the toilet up. And I'm laughing because I'm using all of my mental strength up to scoop the gold out of the toilet. I'm pissing this stuff and I pinch up the end. I walk back into the living room. I slap myself on the leg and just go, right! Quit your jobs! I found an untapped resource of pure, liquefied gold. We're talking James Bond style stuff. walk in, I fill their cups up with my liquefied gold, I put my dick away, I sit down next to my girlfriend and she says, "Time to go." And we leave this party at about 5 a.m. in the morning, and my two friends just sitting watching the never-ending story with these steaming cups of my piss, and I just say, "Take that with you on your travels, have a good time." And we drive home, and we get home at about 5:30 in the morning, and I try and get some sleep, but I'm still coming off of all of these mushrooms and everything like that, and I'm trying to sleep, and I'm awoken half an hour later from a phone call from my mum. I'm looking at my phone, just going, wow, the screen is really bright. Do I answer from my mum? Do I answer the phone from my mum? And now the ring has just started going, mum, 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 mum. And I think, do I answer this from my mum? Can I talk to my mum? Am I on too many mushrooms? Can I do this? And then I think, no, I can do this. I don't need any help. I can do this. And so I answer the phone, and mum tells me that Tim has just attempted suicide. I can't process this information. I can't take it. I don't know if it's the mushrooms or what it is, but I immediately heavily cry, like that guttural cry. I've never cried this hard in my life, that moaning type cry, and I just can't stop it. And I'm saying to my mum, I'm trying to speak, but I can't speak. And when I think about this moment, when I think about how you love an asshole, when it's a family member, you just do. You just do. And I think about what he must have been going through to do this to himself and all of this stuff. And I say to my mum, what happened? What happened? My mum tells me that he locked himself in his house, took all of his antidepressant medication, a bunch of other drugs, and drank like 3 bottles of Jack Daniels. I still can't process it. And I say, is it going to be okay? Is it going to be okay? And mum says, yeah, it's going to be okay. And I say, what happened? And mum says that my second oldest brother, Alf, got a feeling in the middle of the night, drove to Tim's house, broke in to his house, saved him. I can't process all of this information, and finally I can't do it. I just abruptly I hang up from my mum, and I'm crying. I go to do this exasperated flop back into my bed, but I've sort of shuffled up onto the end of the bed, so instead of flopping back into bed, I just flip off the end of the bed, and I fall in between this gap between the bed and the wall, and my legs just flick up in front of me, and I'm squished into this tiny little gap, and as my legs kick up, I kick the sideboard of the table, and now my foot is above me, bleeding into my face as I'm crying sweaty, bloody tears, just screaming, Tam! 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 And my girlfriend sits up and pisses herself laughing. And finally, we have a reason to break up. Does Jason believe in nuclear disarmament? I'm going to leave that one a mystery for the game. Tim's 6th addiction. Meth. Meth becomes Tim's drug of choice, and like I said, he loves it. He loves it more than anything. It becomes more than a hobby for him. And like I said, I don't know if you've ever been to jail before, but when he comes out of jail for this year, it's like a networking session for psychos. So he's made all these great contacts in the drug industry. So when he comes out, he's made friends with Terry, and he goes straight back into working for the oldest biker gang in Adelaide. And this time they've given him more responsibility, and they've given him his own meth lab that he's set up in his own bathroom of his house in this little town about an hour outside of Adelaide. And again, he's making meth for the bikers in his own meth lab in his house, in his bathroom, when a fire starts. And again, for someone who loves meth so much, he's pretty shit at making it. And again, he thinks, save the baby, and he starts gathering up all of the meth as the fire is burning his meth lab to the ground, but he's too slow. The fire falls down onto these flammable materials and these gas bottles that he's got lining the walls of his bathroom. His entire bathroom explodes. Tim awakes outside of his house to the sound of fire sirens and police sirens and ambulance sirens coming towards his house. again, like any good meth taker, any good meth dad, when he hears these sirens, the first thing that pops into his head is he does that thing that he's very, very good at doing. He jumps to his feet and he runs. And he runs and he jumps into his car and he speeds off down the road past the police, past the fire brigade, past the ambulance, and the police see him. They turn around and he leads the police on this hour-long police chase all the way from this little town to Adelaide in South Australia. And finally, the police pull him over and they say, "Get out of the car!" And there's no answer. The police say again, "Get out of the car!" Tim doesn't move. The police get out of their car. They walk around to Tim's car and find out that he can't get out of the car. He's stuck to the seat. He's got third-degree burns to the whole lower half of his body. He can't get out of the car. The police see this and they go, "Oh God, you're badly burned. We need to get an ambulance. You need to see a doctor immediately." And Tim says, "No! They just want to see my dick!" And the ambulance is called and they cut Tim out of the car and they race him to hospital. He's in hospital for a month getting treated for these third-degree burns, and he hasn't been to the doctor for like 20 years, so they do a regular checkup of the rest of his health and they find out that he's got bowel cancer. He's got cancer on these little lumps, these little polyps on his bowels, and they operate immediately and they remove the little lumps, they remove the cancerous polyps, and the cancer is gone. So if Tim had not gone back into making meth for the bikers, blown himself up in his own meth lab, been caught by the police, been forced to go and see a doctor after 20 years, the cancer would have spread from these little lumps, these little polyps to the rest of his bowels, and he would have bowel cancer right now. But they caught it just in time. Instead, he just got badly burnt, went back to jail. So, moral to this story: meth can save your life. Get out there, get on it. The social regular doctor's appointment, so take whichever moral you want from this show. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. The epilogue. Where is Tim now? Tim went to jail for about 2 years, and he went to a bunch of different jails, and he's been out of jail now for about 1.5 years. And he went to a bunch of different jails, and the last jail he went to was a lower security jail, the one that they put people in on the end of their sentence. And it was a lower security jail, one with a bit more of a religious bent. And it's one where they make them go to church every single day and everything like that, and so he came out quite religious. A little bit like when he was exercised on that day. And out of all the addictions, that's the one that I choose for him. Because that's the only one where I know he's safe. And that's the only thing I care about. And that's not the moral of the show. Don't try religion if you don't have to. It's not for me, it's not for most people. Maybe try meth first, I don't know, but it's the only one that seems to work for Tim, and that's all that I care about. All I care about is his safety. He's gone back to living with my parents. He reads the Bible for an hour every night. He's a little bit self-righteous. He's still a little bit of an asshole. But at least he's safe. And that's all that I care about, because I never want to get that phone call from my mum again. Instead of door handles of cars, it's now phone calls from my parents. I never answer the phone from my parents because I'm too scared of having that news again. They fucking hate it that I don't ever answer the phone. He's back living with my parents, and I went to visit them, and he was sitting in their living room reading the Bible like he does for an hour every night. And he looked calm, he looked happy, and he looked safe. And that's all I care about. I walked up to him, and I put my hand on his shoulder, and I smiled. I put my dick in his ear.